Hey guys, this is Liz from DeRosa Group here, back with you this week to talk about the importance of lease signing and all the things that go into having an effective lease signing meeting with your new tenants. I have Joshua here. Say hi, Joshua.
How you guys doing?
Joshua is our property manager, and I thought he is doing these every day with our tenants and our new tenants, so I figured I would interview him, ask him a couple questions, and then together we're going to actually go through line by line the things that we go through with tenants when we're sitting down and doing a lease signing, which is a very exciting thing in this real estate investing game. But we thought it was probably one of the biggest things that landlords don't really properly prepare, and they don't properly do. So we thought this would be a great topic to share with everyone here on BiggerPockets. And so with that, I'm going to ask my first question. So Joshua, you've done a lot of these lease signing meetings and with our prospective tenants and our new tenants. What do you think is the most important things that new landlords need to do, as well as existing landlords, when it comes to lease signing?
Well, I think it's important that the landlord that's conducting that lease signing sets themselves up for success. And a good way to do that is develop a system, a checklist of some sort. And by doing that, it allows them to be consistent in their approach to each lease signing that they do. And if they end up having someone do it for them, they at least have a system in place that they can train that person to follow up and definitely have a nice reputation in the area of lease signing.
Well, and when it comes to the lease process, most people think it's just a matter of signing a lease and being done with it.
Right.
What are you talking about, a process? Why do we need a process? But actually, there's a lot more that goes into preparing preparing a lease, but the items that really that go along with the lease. And I'm going to explain that. So again, what we really want to get through to you is that it's not just the lease. The lease is the most important, but there's a lot of other things that go along in this process.
Absolutely.
To make sure you're starting off on the right foot. This is the first step to onboarding your new tenant, so it's pretty important. So with that, we're going to go through literally the 16 items that we have on our handy-dandy checklist, okay? And we're going to walk you through each of them. I'm going to take half, and then Joshua's going to go through half. So the first one that we want to recommend to you is prepare 3 sets of keys for your new tenants. So you might be saying, why 3 sets? Number 1, you want to have an extra set in your office or wherever you keep your keys. Number 2, obviously you're going to give a copy to the tenants. And 3, you want to have an extra. And then the extra is when the tenant may lose their keys or what have you, and that has happened a lot, right? Locking out, and that happens a lot. So 3 sets. Why that's the first thing on the checklist, or should be the first thing on your checklist, is because you're really busy. You have a tenant coming in the next day to meet with you to go over the lease and the lease, documents, and then they get there and you're like, oh no, where are the keys? And you don't always have the keys prepared. And it might seem kind of obvious, but I gotta tell you, that's one that will sometimes get missed if you don't have it as front and center. Second thing you have to have before as you prepare your kind of lease process. Number 2 is you want to have obviously the lease. That's pretty obvious. But what I recommend to you is when you are going through the lease with people, and I'm sure you do this, Joshua, all the time, every single page when you're going through the highlighted information with them, have them initial each page so it shows their kind of commitment to, I heard you say that about noise or illegal activity, etc. So have them initial each page. That's the second one. Number 3, you always want to get a copy of the driver's license of every single person that's going to be living in that unit, right? So that could be driver's license or anything equivalent to a driver's license, a passport, what have you. Number 4 is the security deposit, obviously. For New Jersey, it's 1.5 months rent. Other states, I know we do some work in Pennsylvania as well. It's 1 month.
It's a first month and then last month.
First month and last month. Joshua knows more about this right too. But so regardless, you got to know what your state requires and what's kind of legal to charge as a security deposit. But really, we have our rentals in Jersey and Pennsylvania, so that's what we're aware of. So know it's required and obviously implement that. Where we are. The 5th thing, obviously, is the first month's rent. And this might seem obvious, but we've talked to new landlords or even existing landlords where they give over the keys and, the tenant has some of the money. I would be very wary of that. So that's a requirement. You need to have, obviously, the first month's rent. Again, might seem obvious, but we've heard stories that would not always have that as the situation. Next part, we have a thing called the utility transfer agreement. What I mean by that is, I'm sure you've seen this, and Joshua experiences this because he ends up following up with our tenants that haven't switched over the utilities. But when you're renting to a tenant, a person in a multifamily, not so much a single family home, but a multifamily, the utilities often need to get transferred, right? Electric, gas, water, and tenants don't always do that as quickly as you need them to. So we actually have an agreement, and we charge them a fee if by a certain date that they don't switch over their utilities. Pretty simple, but we actually make that a pretty important point. So because we've had that where we continue to get the bills when the tenant is already there. So you want to protect yourself. Next thing on our lovely checklist is we have this thing called Truth in Renting, and it's basically it's policies and protection for the tenant in the state of New Jersey. Most landlords don't give this out, they don't speak of it, but it's from a legal perspective, it's really important to give this out so tenants do know their rights. That is important. You want to be the landlord that actually shares, that with them versus making believe there's none. So, they have rights, and you want to make sure that they know them and that you're doing what's right in the eyes of the law. The last one, actually, I was taking half of this and Joshua was taking the other half, and I was about to get into his part. So I'm going to give the floor to Joshua. I just shared about half of the important forms and pieces of our lease signing process and kind of procedure, and Joshua's going to take the next half.
Yeah, so we talk about taking care of our tenants and setting them up for success with Truth in Renting. Same thing goes with letter-based painting documents that we give them. It's pretty much a document that allows the tenant to understand that we don't want them licking the walls and different things like that. Certain houses, have been through certain paint jobs and different things of that nature. So letter-based paint document. Moving on from that one, though, we have move-out charges. And
this is an important one.
Yeah, this is very important. We like to make our tenants aware up front of what the charges look like if after they leave from the place and move out. When we go back in there, we're looking at this place, we're looking at the charges, and we're going to look at this sheet that they signed, that they agreed to, and if there's anything that we need to make charges out of the security deposit, it's going to be referenced out of this sheet. So that's a very important one. Moving on from that one is smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. This sheet is just a sheet that, again, just makes the tenant aware that they share some responsibility, making sure these different parts to the house are up to where they should be to make sure that their family's safe, but also in liability reasons too. We want to make sure that they're on top of that. The next area is tenant emergency contact information, which is very important because what happens is if we can't get a hold of the tenant because they've changed the number or something like that, this allows us to get a hold of their family member, but also in the event of emergency, the sheet is an emergency contact sheet, so in the event of emergency, we need someone to contact, and this sheet helps us have a third party that they are connected to if we need to get in touch with them or if we need to notify people.
And I'll just add another reason for the emergency contact information is that if you're ever in a collection situation, which
Absolutely.
we are, we're working with a great collections agency right now where we give them all that. So now they have more information about that person. So it actually has two good reasons why you want to get that emergency contact. For everyone that's going to be living in the unit, not just for the person signing the lease, you want that emergency contact info. Sorry, I'm taking Joshua's thunder, but that's just how I am.
She's absolutely right. So collection, so emergency contact info is very important to this whole process. Pet agreement form, whether they have a pet or not, you can determine that on your lease. But it's important to have something set up where if you're going to charge them extra, that's entirely up to you. But it's important to have some guidelines, some agreement there. Pets can make a mess if not supervised. So handing over the keys after that's a given. But also we like to provide them our contact information. It's not so much just us contacting them, but they have to get a hold of us. So we try to be as clear as possible how the different forms and different avenues that they can reach us. And then lastly, in the state of New Jersey, at least we know this to be true, is we have them sign a W-9 form or a W-8 form, and that's just a form that the banks over here require that we give our tenants when it's time to do a security deposit and within those banks and stuff like that. So Did I cover that right?
I think exactly. So you want to make sure you're going to obviously be giving your security deposit over to a bank, and they're going to have certain requirements, certain forms that need to get signed from the tenant, not just you. So you need to figure out what that is for your own state. But for Jersey, it's actually for New Jersey, it's a W-9 form or a W-8 form, because sometimes there's different forms for people who are U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens. So you just want to make sure you're using the right forms. The only other thing you missed was the tenant appreciation.
Absolutely.
So what is that, Joshua?
Okay.
Tell everyone.
So every landlord has a different approach. Some landlords, believe it or not, don't do this, but we pride ourselves, and we're very proud of this process of pretty much we have them, there's a sheet that we give them at lease signing, making them aware that we have a program or something that's in place where if they pay rent on time, every month, at every quarter, they get into a kind of like a rolling of
Contest.
A contest, yeah.
A fun contest.
And a polling, and if their name gets pulled out, then they get a $50 gift card, or at the end of the year, if they paid on time the entire year, then we give them a TV. So there's more details to that, but that's pretty much what it looks like. And
Well, we share that with them at that point before they've even, before they even became a tenant for a long time. But right at the beginning, you want to teach them how we're going to reward for not just obviously, not evict them, but most importantly, like a positive incentive, right? And a fun contest that we have.
Them. Yeah, I think it puts them in a good step forward and encourages them to want to pay on time if they have any idea not to,
So I hope this was helpful for all of you. We're happy to share our checklist with you. I know folks have asked us for other documents. I'm always happy to share what we're using so it can help either new landlords or existing landlords. But the key is the lease signing process is more than just the lease. It's actually a process, and you should have a system. You should do it consistently, and you should create forms that are the biggest things that people either miss or the biggest things that can, bite you, at a later date. So you want to really protect yourself. And we've had a lot of luck with that. And we create a little checklist so we don't forget anything. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm glad you joined us here this week, Joshua.
Thank you.
And you'll be seeing more from Joshua. But thank you for watching. And I'd love to hear from all of the folks that watch this today. What have you found to be really important when you're signing a lease with a tenant, and what are the biggest things that people need to know so they're protected and they also do it in the most effective way. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.